to the study session. And the first item is public lands, Park Department, Lakeside Park Disc Golf.
We've renovated the disc golf course at Lakeside Park, and staff has been reaching out to local businesses for sponsorships and opportunities that would cover the cost of tee box signage, and that would include the sponsor's name and logo for each hole. The City of McPherson Park Department has obtained a $2,380 grant to purchase disc golf course signage within Lakeside Park. Staff is requesting permission to purchase 18 large deluxe tee box signs with frame and 1 course kiosk sign with frame from Dynamic Disc of Emporia in the amount not to exceed $2,380.
They bring it. Does next week work for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that will be paid for out of the check from.
Okay, do you have one more item on water park? Thank you. You getting steps in?
What's your
Come
question?
on, Kyle. Kyle's here to update you on the,
Who was the grant from?
Community Foundation.
So the community foundation's paying for these directly?
Yes,
Yes,
Okay, so we should note that this isn't coming out of our budget.
right.
yeah, and it's what he said.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure we get that noted correctly on board docs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kyle with the McPherson Water Park will present his proposal and plan to open and operate the McPherson Water Park for the 2021 season and explain safety precautions, including but not limited to sanitizing, disinfecting the procedures being taken to operate during the COVID-19 pandemic. And Kyle and them, he's received approval from the health department on the operations plan for 2021. And all this information was prepared by Kyle, and I'd like to compliment him on a job well done last year.
Hello, gentlemen. So hopefully you've had a chance to look it over. Basically what the plan is this year, I condensed it from a 24-page document to a 14-page document, so it's not quite as long. The plan is that we're going to open and operate more normal. There's still going to be some things that we're going to take into account for COVID. Instead of shutting down during the middle of the day, kicking people out and then letting people back in, we're going to just simply extend our normal break periods that typically occur at 3 and 5 o'clock and extend those from 10 minutes to 15 minutes. Each guard at each stand will have a spray bottle. So for that additional 5 minutes, they will exit their stand. They will have an area of responsibility to quickly spray for disinfectant. And then we won't be removing people from the facility as well. If people are on a chair area, that's their area, it'll be disinfected when they leave during the next disinfection period.
Kyle, has it been your experience when you do ask people to leave for that period, they don't come back?
That is correct. Last year, the reason I made that change is because last year we saw a mass exodus when they left the facility. We lost out on a lot of concessions revenue because people didn't want to stick around for ended up being 40 minutes break period. So they'd end up going to some other place to either eat out or go home, and then they wouldn't return. Whereas during these break periods, they just go to the concessions area, buy a bunch of stuff there for these shorter break periods, and we don't kick them out. And they can relax in the areas that they choose. We'll still be spreading out all the chairs and stuff like that in groups of 2s and 4s. 4s for more family groups or bigger groups, and then groups of 2. We have plenty of deck space. We're fortunate to have a facility that has a lot of open space, including grass space. So we can easily, and last year we had caps going into the year and towards the end. We didn't, even at the end of the year when we had the max cap, I believe 330 or something like that, we weren't even anywhere near hitting that max capacity, and we still had plenty of room in our facility. So that's another thing that is in this, that there won't be a capacity limit because our facility is more than adequate to accommodate a normal operations day.
Any questions for?
I don't think so.
I just commend Kyle on the work that he's done on this. He's put a lot of thought into it. He did an excellent job last year during this COVID-19. And I anticipate a much, much better year out there this year.
Me too.
So do we want to bring acceptance of these guidelines back this morning yet?
Can.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
don't
you
see any
need.
reason to wait till next
What-
week.
Would the plan be if things have progressed to a point that maybe even you'd change that during the season or?
Change what?
I mean, if we find out that, as far as virus, I mean,
If things get worse and,
I was almost thinking the opposite, but yeah.
Oh,
it could be.
so
it could
this-
be either way.
This plan-
Both ways.
yeah, so this plan is put forth with the anticipation that we are no longer under a mask mandate. And things have progressed to a more open in the state. If we go the opposite direction and things get stricter, I can always pull from last year's and we can implement things from last year's back into it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't want to tie your hands. I want you to be flexible enough to be able to make that decision and do it.
Right, right. Unfortunately, like I said, we've got the plan from last year, which we can pull from easily if we need to.
Good.
So you can bring this next week, Wayne? Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks, Carl.
Thanks, Kyle.
Okay, Public Works. Jeff Woodward.
My first item was scheduled at 9:30, and I do anticipate two people coming in for that, so.
Okay, you can do the other three.
2.2 then.
Um, The street sweeper was scheduled to be replaced last year. We pushed it off till 2021. Three quotes were received for the replacement. The lowest was from Truck Component Services, Stafford, Missouri, in the amount of $211,742 for a 2021 DeLevo 6000 street sweeper. When we purchased that original street sweeper, we had a guaranteed buyback of it of $40,000, which was not exercised last year. The city of Sterling, Kansas has made us an offer for $40,000 for the old sweeper. The time to act would be now in order to take advantage of the sale. Contributions to the equipment fund for the replacement of the street sweeper are currently $235,300. And the street department equipment fund balance is $455,106.67.
When do you have to when do you have to do this? What's the time frame?
Well, the city of Sterling, if they purchase the street sweeper, they want to do it right away. If we commit to this within the next week, it'll shorten the time that the new street sweeper is available. So if we don't act now, Sterling will move on to something else.
Okay. The thing I guess I'm wondering is, what's the lead time on the new sweeper?
They said 12 weeks.
So we turn this over to Sterling now, then we're going to be without a sweeper for 12 weeks?
Yeah, the other option is we bring the street sweeper back for that time. We did that with the truck, and then the truck was damaged and the sale was crashed. So one way or the other. And they've not formally acted. They're going to, the city of Sterling is going to today, but they were confident that their commission would approve that purchase.
Okay. Is it problem of you bringing it next week? So we know what Sterling.
Do we need to
has?
bring it back now?
No, we don't have to bring it back now.
No, you
Okay,
bring it
let's-
next
Let's
week
bring
and
it back next week then.
we'll
Sure.
know what Sterling did.
And then could you put together as is.
Yeah, bill of sale.
So, mhm,
Okay,
Send me the specifics on the sweeper.
sure.
I assume they have a VIN.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, during the site plan review for the Oak Harbor cottages, the wastewater superintendent brought up concerns about the condition, size and integrity of the 6-inch sewer main between Avenue A and Skanky. The existing line was constructed of clay tile. And the line is only, this was sanitary sewer district number 1. The line is only 6 inches. We install nothing less than 8 inches today. It has sags in it. Larry asked us to push forward in reconstructing this line and not wait until there's a additional load of 10 cottages and the potential problems. It's already a problem area for us. Earl's Engineering has submitted a quote in the amount of $10,500 to complete the design. The construction is roughly estimated at $300,000. If the commission decides to move forward, Public Works will put together a contract and forward it to the city attorney for review.
well, my thought on this was to get something done prior to the housing site, the Oak Harbor cottages, starting their construction. And I don't anticipate that the Oak Harbor construction, even when it's complete, there probably will not be 10 cottages that are occupied all at one time, but there may be a time, and I guess my thought would be, we need to get something done before we start the construction of the cottages. Just eliminate a lot of issues down the road. It's gonna have to be, there's gonna have to be some work done. This sewer was put in, as, like he said, it's sewer district number 1, which, if I remember right, was like 1930,
1906.
1906. There you go. Okay. So, I guess I'd like to see us push forward and get this work done.
And again, it is already problematic.
Right.
Even without the additional load from the cottage.
Mike made the statement that it is one of the sewer lines that is on his, every 6 months, we have to go out and flush the line out and make sure that it's working like it should. And if we just do it from Skanky to Avenue A at this point, that's going to help us a lot right there. And it'll eliminate any kind of an issue that comes up on the cottages.
Okay, you can bring it next week, and you will have coordinated with Janetta on finances for this 300,000.
Yeah, we have funds available to do that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, next item. Public Works received a request from John Versu, McPherson County Planning and Zoning and Environmental Administrator, for his McPherson College intern to job shadow various departments. His request is to shadow the building inspector, code enforcement, planning and zoning, public lands and facilities, and public works. The request is to visit on April 13th from 9 to 4. This is a lot of information to cover in one day for him, so they may change that, but I wasn't sure if this need formal commission approval, but
Just
just
the information
wanted
that
to-
you've given us, and I would say that if John and the intern have time for more than one day to divide it up a little bit, we
Sure.
can do it,
okay.
okay?
I don't know if we're gonna have company at 9:30 or not.
Okay, we can do the CVB and come
Sure.
back. You want to come up? Yeah.
But yeah, let's do the CVB and then
Good morning.
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 So next week, I would like to bring my movie series for 2021. The movies will begin on June 11th and end on July 23rd. And then also, I'd like to bring the license fees related to the movies in the park series to pay Swank Motion Pictures a total amount of $1,300. The $1,300 will be reimbursed by the sponsors. So here, the movies that we're going to show on June 11th, we're going to show Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, it's a brand new Star Wars movie. And that one is sponsored by Hutton Construction. On June 25th, we're going to show Frenemies, the Angry Birds 2 movie, sponsored by Next Tech Wireless. On July 9th, we're going to show Tom and Jerry, sponsored by Next Tech Wireless. And on July 23rd, we're going to show the Peanut Butter Falcon, sponsored by Disability Supports of the Great Plains. These will all be shown on Friday nights at the Band Shell and Lakeside Park.
Okay,
So excited about that series.
all right.
Want to bring them back next week then?
Yes, I'll bring in next
Mhm.
week.
Okay.
So, and then are you ready for my second item?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know if we have, he's not on yet. Okay. So he's not on yet. I guess I have a hard copy.
Yeah.
Does everybody have their, the
Yeah.
commissioners do, but I think. you-
Are your folks here, Jeff?
Okay,
So maybe we can defer to that and see
Okay,
whether he
we'll
gets
go,
on.
we'll call you back in a minute. Okay, Jeff.
Okay. Sydney, there's some pictures attached. Can you load those up? Brandon at Donna Pools called regarding a drainage issue at 416 West Kansas. Kevin Loganville, owner of the apartment building at 420 West Marlin, also come into City Hall to discuss the issue. We have some pictures here, and this is at Marlin looking south, and what happens is the crossing under the railroad is clogged. We tried to address that several years ago, and the railroad wouldn't allow us to actually fix the problem. So all the water coming down Marlin Street turns and goes south, and there's a bit of a ditch along the apartment complex, and then it sets in here. This is the parking lot of Donna's Pools. There is no way to get that water out. This had to have been a big problem for years. Donna's Pools are in the process of renovating that building, putting a lot of money in here. And there's just nowhere for that water to go. It's too high to go over to the alley, and it's too high to go once it hits Kansas Avenue. So I put together an estimate. We revised it this morning. And our current estimate's about $60,000. What I think can be done, replace the inlet out in front of the building on Kansas, run it to the west, and then run a line up, a 15-inch pipe up and put an inlet in the parking lot, as well as a couple, one or two in that ditch then along Marlin to get that water out away from the last rain. And it was a significant rain, but it wasn't a huge rain. We were within a couple feet of going into the building.
So you're,
So you,
basically, you're suggesting that on Kansas Avenue, which I think everybody in here is familiar with where this is at, is that? It's the old welding shop, laundry used to be there, so on. Okay. So the suggestion is to put an inlet in front of their facility. Is that right?
There's an existing inlet there. We would have to put a bigger one in to accommodate another pipe. Yeah.
Okay,
And then bring that down, put another inlet in about at the driveway,
okay,
and then run a line to the north and put 2 or 3 more inlets on that along the old street right away. There's actually a platted street right next to the railroad right away. And it looks to me like the railroad right away, when that was dedicated part of this street right away. There wouldn't be enough right away to put a street in there today, but we do have right away to put the drainage in.
You actually have to get airport, railroad, we have to get railroad right away to do any of this, or is this all?
No,
outside
this
of
would
it?
all be on city right away. It's very close to the railroad right away. In fact, presently, the property owner here at Donna's Pools dug a trench out towards the railroad right away, but still nowhere for it to go. Previous to that, it did go down pool in the southwest corner, and some of it did leak through the ballast, but then it just sits there. So I mean, this is the best solution I think that we can do. But of course, it does come at a cost.
Yeah, you said $60,000, but you have 47,000.
Yeah, I roughed it out last week. We revised it this morning. So,
So it's up to 60.
yes, sir.
Hey,
And this is without a design.
is there no option with the railroad to fix that drainage going under those?
We
tracks?
tried to fix that crush pipe and we were squelched, probably 5 or 6 years ago.
That's on Marlin Street.
But that still isn't going to fix the whole problem, but that complicates the issue here.
Okay.
But I mean, just at it theoretically, if you could get the railroad to fix that, what's
It
the
would not
cost of
fix
that?
the drainage problem.
Yeah, what would be the cost just to fix that temporary issue or the,
Oh, I have no idea, probably at least half of what we're going to spend.
Okay.
Okay.
And then there's still no, it wouldn't take all the water. Water would still pond where it is and run where it is now. Just wouldn't be quite as much of it.
Okay. And
we got-
where's the money for this?
Well, I assume we would spend it out of stormwater utility.
this and obviously this is not something we've budgeted for.
Not something we budgeted for.
Okay, you have comment, Janetta?
I don't know if the property owners like to come up and say
Yeah,
anything.
you want to say something while you're here?
Would you come up and identify yourself, please?
I'm Brandon Barnhart, the owner of Donna's.
Okay.
The amount of water that we took in that day, that picture right there was from a 2-inch rain. That's over a 8-hour period of 2 inches, which is, that's a large rain. But that pump that runs right there, that pump discharges into an 1.5-inch inside diameter hose. That pump will pump 300 gallons, roughly 300 a minute. I mean, it's a substantial pump. That thing ran for 24 hours, discharging to Kansas just to keep the water from coming inside my building. My biggest fear is, we, being a pool company, we have a lot of chemical on hand. If it was to rain and we start filling up with water, then I have a whole nother problem on my hands with chemical dispersion throughout the area. And I don't want that. I mean, for that, we've put everything up on pallet racking right now, but it's still not ideal. I want to be able to use my facility and accommodate what I need to. You know, if that was to happen, then we'd have a whole nother issue of a hazmat issue and so on and so forth, and soil contamination. I do realize that as a business owner, we are paying, but I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, an assessed tax for water repair or storm water repair, if I'm correct, which I might not be. I'm putting this out there, but if we are, then any help with this problem would be greatly appreciated. I've done really hard in trying to clean up this area, and I've sunk a lot of money into this building. So I would hope that maybe we could work with each other to get this water pushed out accordingly. I watched it, even though I know the drain where it's supposed to go from the north is backed up. It's crushed, and I did not know that until I spoke with them. But it just, everything from the east on that city block just flooded me. And there's beings how that road is through there, there's just not adequate drainage. And I had to take my skid steer and kind of push around so that I can divert it a little bit, but it's still not, it's not right. And I'm afraid that somebody might, possibly the railroad, I don't know, might say, hey, you can't push water onto us. Well, then at that point, I have, no pun intended, a pool inside a pool building.
There you go.
So,
Just
but-
put sidewalls up and you'd have one.
yeah,
right?
yeah. So, but I just wanted to reach out
Mhm.
and see if we could, get this taken care of.
Mhm.
So.
Janetta?
Good morning, Commissioners. Based off of what the cash flow shows for the Stormwater Utility Fund, based off of the current projects that have been approved, which is the Northgate Drainage Project and the 900 block of Elm and 800 block of Elm, the stormwater portion of those projects, and the Oak Harbor Drainage portion, depending on how that bid comes out in. The unencumbered ending cash balance in 2021 is 1.2 million in this fund. Now, we've had some discussion since the stormwater utility began in 2017 as to what a desired ending cash balance or balance in this fund is. And I don't think we've arrived at what that number should be. I am going to bring the cash flows at the retreat, but that's kind of where we're projected at right now.
Okay, my feeling is that we should go ahead and do this. And I don't know what we need in terms of this week or next week. What's your,
Okay. I think we could probably, hopefully we could design this in-house or we could get a estimate from somebody else, but
I think,
well, I'd like
Well-
to see if us doing it in-house and holding it at the $60,000 and bringing it forward after the recess so that you can start trying
Okay.
to solve a problem and hope the rains the end of the week are not anywhere near 2 inches.
yeah, and I mean, everybody needs to understand that this is not a project that's going to happen day after tomorrow. I mean, it's going to take some time for our people to design the area, redesign the area, if you want to call it that. And it's going to take some time to get some construction in place and one thing or another. So honestly, if we get to it before fall, we're going to be pushing awful hard.
and there, just be aware that there may be some grading involved of your lot once the inlets are in.
Mhm.
That's in, right now, I'm in my busy season, we're running.
Understand.
And-
Mhm.
Quite frankly, if it didn't happen while people were coming and going, that'd be terrific. If we're looking at a fall.
Want to wait till the
project-
1st of December, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'd like to have the last pool closed by Thanksgiving.
There you
So,
go.
you know,
Okay.
Have that, but as long as we have a plan and an agenda, and everybody's on the same page, and we keep everybody informed of how this is going. to
Okay.
unfold.
All right.
Is
You
this-
have some comments you'd like to make?
Well, we've always had that issue there and being moved into that place and renovated outside landscaping and stuff. That's virtually pushed the water more to his side
Uh-huh.
and flooding him out. Before there was kind of a low area there that stood the water. Once all that changed. Yeah, it's just pushing water more his way.
Okay.
And I feel it comes down that gutter and has no place to go,
Mhm.
all the way from up there on the courthouse and somewhere there.
All right.
All of it comes down there and just shoots straight south.
Okay. Well,
Okay,
the other thing is, glad to have a new, it's not new company, I guess, but a new location, and the renovation that you've done is just really looks good.
Thank you
So
much.
congratulations on that. We'll work with you on it, okay?
Thank you so
All right.
much.
okay, may I make a suggestion that you bring this next week with a determination on an in-house plan and work with Janetta on the specific fund to be funded out of.
Mhm.
Is that all right
Yeah.
with you?
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Mhm.
coming in.
They on yet?
Okay, now we'll go back. Are your guy on yet on scooters? No, you want to go ahead and make presentation anyhow, or you want to delay till next week? He may have thought his time.
No, he responded that, yeah, he responded that he's be on at 9:30, but I have a feeling that.
Oh, we can cover my items and then if he, for some reason, comes on, you just keep an eye on it.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move to administration.
I might skip around a little bit here. And I'll maybe defer to you, Janetta, first. Do you want to talk about times for budget meetings, times and dates?
Good morning again. I sent out an email last week, just inquiring on our budget calendar and the May budget presentations for the 2022 request. And they are tentatively set for the outside agencies. And this is just mirroring what we did last year, so it can be changed. Wednesday, May 12th. And then for the department heads, 2022 budget requests would be Monday and Tuesday, the following week, the 17th and 18th. I'm open to switching those weeks if that doesn't work, but just wanted to reach out so that we could get those pinpointed and on everybody's calendar. And I thought last year it worked really well, doing it in the community building. And so unfortunately, with the spring retreat coming up, we weren't able to get the community building. So it's starting to get booked. And so I just wanted to get those on everyone's calendar as well as Nick's so that we can do it in the auditorium. Those dates work okay
Great.
in everyone's calendar?
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Gary?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay. So department heads, mark your calendars for the 17th and 18th of May to do your presentations.
You'll still have to be available for the 12th too, for the outside people.
Yes, you guys will. I don't think that the department head set in on that last year, so.
All right.
And we did get Rebecca Locke with the animal shelter, her appropriation request, so she'll be able to present as well. That was on the cat control, because I believe in 2022, they were going to ask for a substantial increase
Yeah,
to their
this is not the
appropriation.
animal Shelter, this is the Humane Society.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
She'd be on the,
Humane
Out-
Society.
outside.
I forget those,
yeah.
but she's reeled
Yeah.
in.
Okay.
And just so you know, in case there's anything else for the spring retreat, I plan on presenting where we're at year to date through March on revenues so that we can talk about current year's budget and projections. Also going to talk about a little bit about 2022's budget. Also present the budget to actuals and present, unless you want me to do budget to actuals next Monday, it's up to you. I can do it both. And then also the cash flows on the utility funds and the CIP, so you can see where we're at from a cash standpoint. Is there anything else I'm missing that you want me to present?
No, and we're doing that on the 14th, right?
Right, in here,
Huh?
in here.
Yeah, and what times to start?
I'm guessing 8:30 is probably when we've normally started.
8:30 to, you're planning all day.
Yeah, the typical.
I'm not going to present all day. Or you'll push me out.
8:30, so.
Okay, Nick,
I'm still working on the agenda. I did send something out last week to ask all department heads and obviously any of you that if you have items that you want on there, let me know. If we have a shorter agenda than usual, I know we are going to do some finance training a little bit and then also go over the capital improvement piece. So I would imagine we'll take most of the day.
Yeah, I plan on probably the first 2 to 3 hours, maybe.
Okay.
So you'll be tired of me. So maybe we can break it up, but because I also want to present our comprehensive CIP plan.
Okay,
All right,
that's on the 14th.
right.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, you want to talk about All Schools Day fireworks?
Yeah, I can. A request came 2 years ago. We went ahead and went and purchased the fireworks for All Schools Day through the CVB. And what it allowed them to get a little bit better display because we were the ones actually paying for it, and we don't pay sales tax. And they've made that. They were obviously going to do it again last year, and we didn't end up having fireworks. They were asking again whether we'd consider doing that. The cost of the display is about $3,000. The one challenge we had in 19 is we didn't get the receipt. We didn't get our payment till 2020. So what we've talked about is if we end up doing that this year, we'd want to make sure we're paid up front before we get paid, just to make sure that that actually happens this year. So if there's no opposition now, I've talked to Joni, and it'll make it look like her budget's spent $3,000 over, but she'll actually have cash in there. And in future years, if we want to continue to do this, we would have to go ahead. What we'd plan to do is go ahead and put the expense into her budget and also show the revenue coming in to reimbursed expenses on a regular basis, if that's where you guys want to go with this.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we're still going to have some scale down All Schools Day. They've been in and talked again, so I don't know how fast they're going to make a decision, but.
They're making Thursday or meeting.
Okay.
So would the plan be to do fireworks regardless, though?
Fireworks, I think we're already.
Yeah, there were fireworks, and they were hoping to have a band that they would pay for before the fireworks.
I
But
think what happened on that is maybe was filled out or they forgot. It wasn't.
Well, we'll probably go, we're going to go ahead and invoice them and send it directly to them.
yeah, okay. All right, so everybody feel all right with it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can bring that up on your Thursday, All Schools Day meeting.
And then we'll just bring it next week for approval.
Okay. All right. You want to talk about the COVID?
Let me do my briefing first.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep. If you look here at your emergency operations briefing that TJ put together, thank you, TJ. You can kind of see my update. I'm just going to hit the highlights from this. It's been quite some time since we did another briefing. And basically, as of Friday, April 2nd, 5 p.m., the total number of cases in McPherson County since the beginning of the pandemic was 3,252 total cases, with 3,152 having met the recovery guidelines set forth by the KDHE. A total of 86 COVID-19 related deaths were reported in McPherson County since the beginning. And as of April 1st, and when I submitted this stuff and TJ and I started working on it, there were 15 active cases and 2 hospitalizations in McPherson County. McPherson County Health Department reports the following percentage of positive cases for the following time periods based upon tests during those following periods. And I highlighted the section since the last time we did an update, and you can see that the positive percentage rates are continually going down. Last time we reviewed this, it was at 32%, and it's gone down continuously for the last 3 periods, down to 9.93% positive rate. And the tests have gone down. Actually, the test went up a little bit this last period. And still the number of reported cases continues to go down. I will say that much of the focus of the public health officials has shifted to administration of those COVID-19 vaccinations. Current available vaccines in McPherson County have included Moderna, the Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson vaccinations. Numbers of positive cases in McPherson County and across Kansas and the U.S. have seen decline as these vaccine availabilities and administration rates continue to increase. As of April 1st, and we kind of looked at that initially, 9,968 doses of vaccine have been administered in McPherson County. And of those, 3,130 have been administered by the McPherson County Health Department, while they've worked with other providers to administer 6,838 of those doses from other providers in the county. We did hear recently from Shaylee in our EOC meeting that at some point they'll start shifting all those over to the providers as they kind of finish out those that they're doing. And that's the hope that they hope to start pursuing. I will say, I'll kind of skip over to on page 4. Since we last held our briefing, significant legislative and executive efforts have happened at the state of Kansas related to public health orders and authorizations related to public health. During this past legislative session, which actually is still in the 2021 legislative session, the legislature took some legislative action to limit the Kansas governor's emergency powers related to emergency public health orders. And with legislative action, several of Governor Kelly's executive orders were set to expire on March 31st, 2021. On April 1st, the Governor Kelly reissued several of her executive orders. And the legislature did assign oversight of all executive orders for public health to a legislative coordinating council. And of those that she reissued, those orders that she reissued on April 1st, there was one particular one that was revoked, and that was the Kansas statewide mask mandate that she put into place on April 1st. There was a 5-2 vote by the Legislative Coordinating Council to go ahead and remove that statewide mask mandate. And with that, only local orders remain in place. And just as a reminder, with that move, the only existing mask legislation that we have here in the city of McPherson would be the mask choice ordinance
Choice ordinance.
that was adopted back on October 26th, and that's ordinance 3342. So that's the only one that's current. So obviously there'll be some discussion after we go through this. I'm not gonna, if you go to page 5, you can kind of see some of the updated information as it pertains to housing and social services. I won't go over and review that. You can read through that. There's nothing hugely significant changed here. Just updates on just various progressions and some of these social service agencies and where they're at currently. I'll hop over to page 7. McPherson County distributed the remaining unallocated funds in February of 2021. Of that amount, $70,000 was distributed not-for-profits here in McPherson, and $15,345 was allocated to the city of McPherson. The city was able to use all of those $15,345 with the exception of $3,833.70 by that March 1st deadline, and we did go ahead and return that remaining amount back to the county here last month in mid-March. The other thing we continue to keep our eyes out for, on March 11th, the American Rescue Plan was signed into law by President Biden, and it provides $1.9 trillion in other economic stimulus related to COVID. Many of those details are still being ironed out with regards to distribution of those funds. But the city of McPherson does expect to receive a currently unknown apportionment to be used on eligible cost as designated in that American Recovery Plan. We hope over the next several weeks to have more details on the amounts and the uses that the city's portions funds can be used for. So we'll continue to keep you guys updated on that. As far as supplies, we've not had any issue getting any of the supplies, so you won't see any highlighted areas in there that have really changed. But I do want to go to the EOC objectives that we've been discussing, and I want to hit on the highlighted ones, which would be the potential new changes or the potential discussion items that we might want to have. As you remember, we adopted a number of COVID-19 special leaves to expire for city employees, or those are actually set to expire on March 31st. And at this point, based upon where we're at, I think it's fairly safe to say that we could let some of those expire and not renew. But if it's the choice of the governing body, we certainly could revisit that. But at this point, all of our employees have been offered vaccine. And hopefully, our hope is that by close to May 1st, all of the doses should have been received, and the waiting period should have been felt. So with that, we certainly could revisit that, and if it's the direction of the governing body, we could extend some of those. But at this point, it's not required that we do that, and the feeling is it may be a good timing to go ahead and let some of those expire. We also want to obviously discuss any changes to the mask requirements or the mask choice ordinance that we laid out back on October 26th. And we want to have some discussion on that following this report. And then also any related guidance to city facilities. I have talked with the staff here. They feel, my administrative staff, we sat down and talked at our last administrative meeting. We felt, regardless of what you guys do related to a mask ordinance, what we might look at doing is keeping the requirement, at least for this city facility, and look at some of the others. And we might consider at least keeping those in place until May 1st, when all of our employees have had a chance to receive all the doses, and set aside wait times for that as well. So that's certainly up to the governing body where they want to go with that. And then take any needed action through policy or disinfection that might result in increasing cases. Obviously, they've been decreasing, and this is something we just need to continue to keep our eyes on. So those are the EOC objectives that I've got to deliver, and that is the report for this last period. And just to point out, we've gone to six-week reporting periods, so we won't report back to you for quite some time.
Okay, any questions on the report?
Nope.
Okay, you hear person on. Okay, come up and do the bird report.
Okay, first off, I want to say this will not cost the city or the CVB any money. So that's a good thing. And then also, as CVB director, my job is to attract visitors as well as come up with fun events and conferences to McPherson. So this is why I'm bringing this next subject up to you, because I think it would be good for our college students and visitors, just a fun activity for people to do when they come to McPherson. So on that, I'm going to introduce Mike Butler. He's the Senior Account Executive with City Partnerships. He will present the Bird Scooter program and discuss it if it might be a great fit for McPherson. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Joni. I appreciate you guys hopping on even my delay. Yeah, so the idea of something like this for those who are perhaps unfamiliar, just with the service as a whole, these vehicles are strategically placed into locations in the city, locations that either Bird, we can present and we can come to an agreement on, or the city can actually provide some direction on where they want these things to be available. But it's a very, very small, very, very tight operation to the point where we're maybe partnering with 50, 75 units that would be allowed within the city of McPherson. And it's something very similar to a place that we've had a ton of great success in Great Bend. So we just started this a couple weeks ago. Things are going extremely well, which is a really good sign. And when speaking with Joni about this, we said, hey, I think this is an excellent opportunity just to pilot something out, just to experiment. So we're not looking for any type of long-term contract. This is something that we would like the city's graces or permission to operate for the remainder of the year, see what goes well, see what might need to be improved upon, and make any adjustments for 2022.
Okay, you want to finish your presentation?
I don't have the only availability that I have is just over the phone. So anything that would be done, I'm happy to take any sort of questions. I'm happy to provide some documentation, at least via email.
Okay,
But
I'll ask you a question then.
sure.
On the pricing options. You want to say something about them, $1 plus a per minute fee, and I'm taking that,
Mhm.
that your average ride's 5 minutes. So what's the, how is that paid to you? Is that paid through a credit card on their smartphone, or what do they do?
Yeah, so an average ride is going to sit around 10 to 13 minutes. And when a user is going to use the service, they're going to walk up to the vehicle and use their smartphone to access everything to start the ride and to end the ride. So they'll scan the vehicle with their phone using the Bird application. That scan will unlock the vehicle, which would be $1. And then for every minute after that, it's going to charge them. And this changes city to city, but roughly 25, 30 cents. So an average ride could be about $6 to $8. So it's not a huge fee, but obviously it's more than some type of public transportation, maybe comparable to an Uber or a taxi. But this is all paid through the smartphone.
Okay, and where these are located in different points, these scooters are freestanding, they don't need any stand.
That's correct. The idea is that there's no footprint, there's no infrastructure that Bird needs. The only thing that we're needing is the ability to use the public right-of-way. And so ideally, these are locations that we'll predetermine and we'll pre-identify. And we'll say, okay, well, we deem this particular location to be a good zone to deploy these vehicles in the morning because that they're in the, it's called the furniture zone. So they're in a zone on the sidewalk to where a vehicle can be placed there. But also, someone in a wheelchair, someone in crutches, someone could walk by easily. And so it's that idea. But sure, the user certainly has the freedom to pick these vehicles up wherever and then drop them off wherever.
Mike, this is Joni.
Yeah.
Hey, I have talked with Main Street, and we do have a plaza downtown, which we thought would be a great place to park some of them, and maybe at the museum or a couple locations that we've thought of. So,
Yeah.
And the museum is also close to McPherson College, so the college kids from McPherson College could get on those, and then Central could get the ones at the plaza. There's plenty of room at both places.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, that's great. I mean, I think even in my extensive 7-minute Google touring of McPherson, I think I could even identify a couple dozen locations that we felt pretty good about. But then on top of that, the way that our business works, at least operationally, is we're going to lean on a local partner. So this is a local business, a local entrepreneur, a local entity to run the operational side of the business. So this is not necessarily an hourly employee from Burr. This is not an independent contractor, similar to an Uber driver. This is someone that knows McPherson through and through, who has a ton of community pride and a ton of knowledge of the market. I've never been to McPherson. I don't know where people hang out. I don't know where people walk around, but certainly we can find someone who does know those things, and can be very nimble and can be moving vehicles around, making sure vehicles are in a tight, orderly fashion. And so this person is very critical to the business because they essentially run all the operational side of things.
Have you identified a fleet manager?
We have not yet, and I typically don't like to until we feel really, really confident that we'll get the green light from the city. So assuming things go well with you all in a conversation like this, or maybe afterwards, that's when I'll tap the shoulder of my team and say, hey, we need to go out and find a local partner so we can get going as soon as possible. But I don't like to get people's hopes up and then all of a sudden the city decides to pull the plug or something like that.
Okay, and I'm assuming that it's easy on the discounts with the smartphone for veterans, senior citizens, healthcare workers, students with grants, how that works.
Yeah, there's a lot of information that's available on our website. Essentially what that person can do is if they are eligible for a particular discount, they're going to email our support team to provide evidence for that, and then we can plug that into that person's unique account. So they'll have to do some work on their end. We obviously just want to verify that this person actually is a healthcare worker, a veteran. They are eligible for particular discounts due to income or something like that.
Hey, Janetta, our treasurer has a question.
Okay.
I think this is an awesome opportunity, but I was wondering if you would be able to share some other communities where you have implemented this program and some of the feedback from them. The reason I'm asking is I'm from Manhattan, Kansas, which has a program such as this. And for the most part, it's a very positive program. But what they found is they found a lot of these dumped in the river, torn apart.
Yeah, totally.
And so I think feedback from other municipalities who have this sort of program would be very beneficial, because I think you're only as good as the program manager that manages it. And if they don't have the time to keep track of where these bikes are and the availability of them and the maintenance on them, they can be a nightmare and a failure to the city. So.
I can certainly agree to that. And I think a couple of things come to mind. I mean, one, Manhattan, Kansas obviously is a college town, so maybe things are more, some of those negative things may be more prone to happening there as opposed to a place like McPherson, even though you do have a couple universities there. And then the other thing is I think it's just a general size and scope thing when it comes down to it. I mean, you have a place like Manhattan, Kansas that has hundreds and hundreds, if not even thousands of scooters on the ground. It could be difficult to operate. Bird, our business is not even there. So I can't speak to that just because they're two complete businesses that run operations completely different. The only thing that we can tell you is that when we enter into a market, like McPherson, we're going to tell this particular business or this particular entity that, running this business and getting the operational side of things figured out, this is their entire business. This is their income. So if they're falling short in that, then there's a huge opportunity cost for us. There's also a huge opportunity cost for them as well, because we've essentially structured the program to incentivize them to make sure vehicles are in an orderly fashion. They're not dumped out in some river. They're not abandoned, right? So we've incentivized them because they make money through ride revenue. So if their scooters are being abandoned, their scooters are being lost, their scooters are being taken, their business takes a hit as well. So that's how we've structured this program, and which is really exciting, because that's vastly different in night and day in comparison to some other operators, maybe operators in Manhattan. but certainly able to connect you. Maybe I can connect you with the city admin at Great Bend. I know they were really gung ho about this whole thing.
I think, go ahead, Gary.
I'd just like to have a little better understanding of what the liability issues are in case of accident or theft or vandalism, and things like that. Who's responsible for all this?
Yeah, so the liability portion, the vast majority of the risk is always going to be on the rider itself. So when you ride this vehicle, when you put in your credit card information, you scan that vehicle, you have to sign over a waiver, a liability that says, hey, I understand that I'm taking on some type of risk here by operating in an electric vehicle on the streets, right? So in the case for the city, I always have to ask people, I mean, do you ever get, bikers or similar modes of transportation that are coming back to the city trying to sue the city? Does that happen even today?
We don't really have,
No, we don't have really bike lanes in our city.
and we don't have a bike share program either. So this is in that perspective.
Well, not bike share. I mean, just cyclists in general. I mean, not even anyone that's affiliated with the bike share program.
We have not had a problem, and we don't have regular bike lanes.
Okay. Well, that's a good sign. Just
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's a good sign as is. The only time that we've seen, and this is just an example that my legal counsel likes us to bring up, it hasn't even happened yet, but this is kind of the hypothetical situation, is that if a member of the city, a citizen has reached out to you all 500 times asking to get a pothole filled and you ignore them, and then that same person goes out and breaks their face on a pothole on a scooter, yeah, maybe they could come back because they can perhaps prove some type of gross negligence. But that's really the only case, and it's an extremely rare case. It's a case that we've never even seen before. But we're also happy to provide the city as an additional insured, so you all are protected in the majority of those cases.
Do they ride these on the sidewalks, and how does that tie in with our current codes, Chief?
They should only be ridden on the street. So we promote and encourage riding on the street. In most cases, in most cities that I actually work with, there's usually a code that says you can't bike or at times even ride a skateboard on the sidewalk. So they should always be, they're unlocked, they're picked up on the sidewalk, but ridden in the street just like a bicycle.
Okay, I think where we're at as a city is that we have an interest. It is a unique idea. We need at least a couple of weeks. What we need to do is our city attorney will have to go through our different ordinances to identify where we will need some changes, because we're going to need some changes in order for these to function. And while we're doing that, and then come back with you and tell you what changes we would have to make in another study session. And also maybe at that time you have an idea of the locations that you would want to put scooters at. And then also if you've had any ideas in terms of fleet managers, that will give our city attorney and you a little bit of time to work through all this, and we'll have a clear idea on where we're at in order to make these changes.
Yeah. Well, do you think an ordinance is necessary before starting something like this?
Yes, there will be an ordinance before this starts.
Yeah. Well.
Okay. And what around what, I guess, specifically?
That's nothing that we're going to discuss right now in study session. I need to go through the codes, and I can be in contact.
Yeah, so Joni,
Got
give the city attorney your information. So as we start to put stuff together, we will be able to, city attorney will be able to be in contact with you directly.
Okay. And so what's the earliest you think, given the fact there may have to be an ordinance, what's the earliest you think something like this could be up and running?
I'm not going to commit to any specific date. I will do my best to get something to the commission within a couple of weeks, and we'll see from there. But this is too early to give you any kind of a date.
No, that's fine. I'm more just trying to predict also what needs to go to council and what needs to be improved. I know sometimes I can take 60 days. I can take 120 days. So I don't know how quickly sometimes different cities operate.
Yeah, well, we meet every week and we have a number of other things on the agenda for the city attorney to do. So, but we will try to be anywhere in the 14 to 60 day range.
Okay. Yeah. This will be my last thought. My last thing is that we would hope that there doesn't have to be an ordinance in place. In fact, most cities, Great Bend, they didn't have any ordinance in place. This was simply just an approval to operate. And most places will take a 6 to 9 month operational period to gather a lot of evidence, a lot of data, and then use that to create some type of ordinance. Because otherwise, it's hard for them to really know what they want. It's hard for them to put regulations in place when you've never even seen these scooters on the road just yet. So they use that kind of trial period that we're talking about to then enact some type of ordinance that makes a bit more sense, and that's a bit more tailored for the community. So that's a route that's really popular. Of course, at the end of the day, this is your decision, though.
Yeah, and we appreciate that information. I think though we will check with Great Bend and other cities and be able to do our due diligence before we talk again.
Can you give us an exhaustive list of what cities in Kansas you have contracts with, or you have scooters in? Is that possible?
It's not an exhaustive list, so I'll absolutely be able to do it.
Yeah, but you can send that to the city attorney. Joni will get you that information. You get your information to the city attorney. So we can expedite as much as possible.
Sounds great.
Okay. Anything else from your end?
That is it. No.
Okay, we'll be back in touch with you soon.
All right. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye. Okay,
Tom, could I just say something real quick?
yeah,
We've got some other people out there that are interested in putting golf carts on the street. The mode of transportation in this town is obviously about to change, or we're thinking about it. And we need to discuss the golf cart issue at some point too. Whether we want to do that or,
well,
you know, and I can see Mike probably just shaking his head back there with all this stuff coming up, but
we haven't said we're going to do anything. We're
no, but
still
I'm just
looking.
thinking, we need to think
And
about it.
we have had several meetings on golf carts and explained the problem there. And so it may end up be that we don't do this too. So if we approve this, maybe we have to take a look at other modes of transportation, but we'll just have to see.
And I look at, you know, you talk about driving these in downtown, when you have people that it's really hard to see backing, you know, that concerns me a little bit.
Yeah, we haven't done anything but ask for a better picture.
You know, the city of, well, I say the city of Lincoln, Nebraska, I've had the opportunity to be there quite a few times in the last 15 years, but here recently, they have bicycles. And which I realize is a lot different than scooters, but 5 or 6 places right around the college, they have big areas that they park the bicycles. And the last time I was there were 27 bicycles parked in that area. And out of the 27, 23 of them were not operating. They had tires missing. They had chains tore off of them. They were just junk, period. And you talk about something that looked trashy, something we need to keep in mind when we go through this.
Absolutely. So I think, you know, we have Great Bend, we have Lawrence, we have Wichita that's run scooter program. Hayes. So we have a number of places that we can check, and we'll look at the good, the bad, and the ugly.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Yep, all right. Okay. We're down to mask ordinance. Are you wanting to say something first? or-
No, I've kind of, I kind of pointed that out, and I don't know if the city attorney wants to say anything. Just confirm, that's exactly where we're at, where we talked about. The reality of it is, the only ordinance that exists is the city choice ordinance that the mayor, as the mayor referenced. That's out there. There is a copy of that choice ordinance, that 3342 that you've got out there. And if you guys want to look at that, and this would be an appropriate time to discuss where, as a community, we want to go with that. And, I know we can explore different options, and hopefully the city attorney will tell us where we can and can't go with that.
Okay. You want to say something first?
As far as the mechanics, this is a yes or no kind of ordinance. We either have the ordinance in effect, or I have drafted one if you get to the point, or when you get to the point that you want to revoke it. This is not structured so there can be a toggle. We can certainly rewrite it to put a toggle into it, but that is not how it was passed originally.
Okay, so what all that means is that we either keep it in force or we repeal it, is what you said. From a health and safety standpoint, number one, our data has gone down considerably. Now that we are the only thing again, and that the legislative council is not wanting a mask ordinance anywhere, there are businesses that are taking down their mask requirement. Those that still want a mask can require, an organization or a business can require a mask. And that's what they want to do business. If we keep ours in place in the current environment, it is next to impossible to enforce. And that's where I'm coming from. I do not want to see our police department tied up trying to what will be interpreted as hassling people on whether they're wearing a mask or not. And there's no way that you can probably do a great job of doing the 6 feet, because the time you get there, they can be 6 feet. If a business wants to have it, example, if Dillon's wants masks, they can have masks if we repeal this. If Walmart does not want masks, and my understanding is they've taken down some of their signs and people are allowed to go in there now, they're not obeying the choice ordinance right now, unless you can say they're 6 feet apart in there. I just think it's a nightmare, given the environment we're in now, and the emphasis is on vaccine. So many people around us have not required masks. The other side of it is even our nursing homes are allowing people to come in and visit. I just think it's a nightmare for us to enforce, and I would call on Chief Golden from a police standpoint. You want to come up here? He didn't know I was going to do this, so I put him on the spot.
No, Mayor, I would agree with you. I think it's a very hard decision. We want to keep the community safe. We want to keep these numbers down, if not, get them as far down as possible. But the enforcement action by law enforcement on this would be a great toll. And country separated enough to cause more heartache. So I would say that you're on the right path in what you're saying, and I agree with you.
Okay, other opinions?
I personally, right now, we're standing at 31% of the people in this county have been vaccinated. In my opinion, that's not quite there yet. I would like to see it more around 50. We may never get to 50, but I'd like to wait at least until the 1st of June, and I'll just throw that date out there. to see what happens as vaccines become more readily available. They're available at most of the pharmacies now. People can get them, and as more people are vaccinated, the better. And then possibly take a look at it and see if we want to revoke it at that time. But I think we're a little premature in jumping in there right now.
Commissioner Weems?
Well, it's like Chief said, it's a tough decision to make. I guess I would agree with what Commissioner Mel said, but the date, I'd like to look at it closer to the 1st of May. First meeting in May, and discuss it at that point in study session.
So what is the proposal for enforcing this for another 4 weeks? No, I'm asking the two commissioners that don't want to
Well,
repeal.
Well, I mean, we've always talked about 5%. And now we're at what, 9 point something, whatever it is, 9.4. So are we saying that the 5 that we had was not anything that we went by? So 9 is good?
Yeah.
If that's what it is, why, then that's fine, but I think we stuck with the 5, and I'm not saying that it's gonna go down.
and Larry, the only reason I said June is because it takes a month in between vaccine 1 and vaccine 2.
Right, exactly.
If they wouldn't got it today, they wouldn't get it till in mid-May. So that's the only reason I'm saying mid-June.
And as far as enforcing it, I've been in Dillon's, I've been in Walmart, I've been at Graber's and different places, and Dillon's at this point is still making over the PA system every 15 minutes, half hour, whatever it is, that a mask is required when you shop. And granted, there's people in there that are not wearing masks, and people in Walmart and so on. But it's been that way all along. I mean, 3 months ago, you walk into Dillon's and there were people with no mask on, and Walmart the same way. So
So once the state and the county didn't act and allowed state mask mandate, that became a sheriff's responsibility and a district court responsibility. When we come back in here, if we don't reinforce it, the people will do what they want anyhow. The other side of it is if we do enforce it, it's a municipal court issue. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So, and we have a very low fine, and the people in the past said, write me up, I'll pay the $10 and I'll do what I darn well please.
Yeah.
So I'm just,
Well, that's gonna happen.
we're put us in that situation where we have to not enforce an ordinance, or if we enforce it, we're going to make a number of people. And that's why if we would have had the ability to suspend this, I would have been suspended for 30 days to see where we're at. We do not have that ability, but you have to write another ordinance to repeal it. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so what I'm saying is that we should rewrite the ordinance to repeal with a trigger this time, that if we see this going the wrong way, we can easily go back to it without having to reinvent the wheel. But it's an enforcement nightmare, and I don't see that we're going to, it's a lose-lose. That's the only thing. So that's where I'm coming from.
Well, enforcement is not an issue with me because it's never been enforced.
So if we're not going to enforce it, why do we have it?
Yeah.
That's my point. if you don't want to enforce it, if you don't want to go to the barber shops and the beauty shops this time and the other places, when somebody calls in and complains that Joe Blow is not wearing a mask, or Gertrude is not wearing a mask when she did my hair, I do not want to have to go and even give a warning to those people, because that puts all of the positive things we talked earlier in this meeting to create goodwill for our police department, takes us down the drain.
How many times have you gone out on a mass call in the last 3 months? How about the last 30 days? Yeah.
So my point is, if we're not going to enforce it, why can't we repeal it? And the repeal, put in there a trigger, if we go the wrong way, to pick it, to automatically put it back in.
What are we going to call the wrong way? 9.6, 10.2, 15.3? What?
We've been down this road before.
I know we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Fauci and others that want us to wear masks for the next 2 years, to be
No.
sure. So
Well, I'm
not gonna, do
No.
that, but I think we could repeal this and follow our data. If we're going the wrong way, if we're back up, we will take some action, but, and maybe we need to have a little bit different than the choice ordinance if you really want to do that. But, right now, we gave people the opportunity before, and we didn't want to enforce it. Right now, we're in a predicament because the environment today is different from when we did this.
I
And
agree.
we've got a growing vaccine. I spent Monday afternoon with Senator Moran, went through Pfizer. We looked at all that they do, and 30,000 quality checks a month for their products to be sure that we're safe there. And a lot of places like them are 100% vaccinated already with the second shot. And some of our other industries have done that too. So, and if everybody around us is shown great results. People that go to Wichita are not going to have to wear a mask. You know, all around us, the requirement is fallen by the wayside. So I will argue for a repeal with a trigger. And if we have a problem, we'll come back and do it.
So we got a weekly update then? Is that that's what we're thinking, or is that
Well,
just
I'm
something
giving-
we're gonna just,
I'm giving you a weekly update right now in public input.
yeah, and we have it at 9.4.
Yeah,
And so that's good, I guess, right? Is that what we're saying?
yes.
Okay.
From a
So-
standpoint of not wanting to have to enforce this and pass out tickets or warnings.
I guess if you want to rewrite it, let's rewrite it. See what it does.
Okay? Can you bring a repeal ordinance next week?
I can. What kind of a trigger would you like in it? Your discretion or benchmark?
I think discretion. Yeah, that way, if the consensus is that's gone up enough, we make the move.
And if it's gone down, so much the better.
Yeah, I agree.
So much the better.
You know, and by
Just
we,
another-
by we talk about this next week, it will be 2 more days of data.
Mhm. Good.
So if we went the wrong way, we will have done the work in advance of another day. But this is not a good thing for the police department. So we'll see where we're at. We're making, if you look on your EOC report and you look at each one of those things, we're steadily going in the right direction. I'm hoping that we will get, continue to get the vaccine doses that we've been getting. That's the other problem that we have. We would probably be more than 31%, as Commissioner Mel said, if in fact we would have got more vaccine doses early on, but we didn't get them. And now we're getting them, but there are other states that are claiming, why does Kansas get them when we have a more critical need? But for right now, let's count our blessings that we're doing this and see where we're at.
Does that take into consideration the people from McPherson County going to Harvey County or someplace else to get the
Those are just
vaccine? Are
doses
they in-
administered here.
No, those are, the 31% is 31% have been administered here. Those of you that went to Heston, Great Bend, everywhere else is not counted in that. So we're probably
good.
at 35-40% right now for people that went other places because we didn't have availability in the beginning.
Right, because that's, I mean, myself, my wife and I went to Heston and had the vaccine there. And they, when I walked in there, I drove through the parking lot the first time and there were 17 cars from McPherson there
Yeah.
out of the 40 or 45 that were in the parking lot.
A lot-
And so if those aren't counted, then our numbers are a lot better than they really are.
That's
Or than
true.
they really sound, I guess, or what's
Yeah.
reported. So-
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. So
So,
good.
yeah, so I think it's worth bringing it forward next week. And we have 2 weeks of data, but there's no way for us to estimate what's been done in another county.
Right, exactly.
So,
Okay.
right? Okay, if you'll add a trigger to what I think you've already prepared, and we'll bring it next week. We'll put it on the regular commission agenda. And that means this week, the choice ordinance is still in effect, but it'll probably not receive an enforcement till we
I'd-
make a decision.
On some of the other items I brought up.
Yeah.
In the EOC, you want to,
Yeah, I'm gonna move to
Okay.
that. Okay. We have several things in the EOC that expired. Are there any of those items? Give the page number again.
page
5, I believe.
well, page 19 was the
19.
objectives.
Yeah, 19 on the objective.
The special leave was the first one, and that did go ahead and expire on the 31st unless you decide to extend
Yeah.
it.
Is anybody interested in renewing the special leave? I am not. I
No.
think we've run our course.
I do too.
Okay. Changes to the mask requirements, we've already dealt with that for next week. Discuss any changes to the guidance related to city facilities. This is where even on a repeal, we have our right to do what we want to do. If you want to have a mask at the law enforcement center, if we want to do what we are doing here, I don't see that we have to do anything different. And so that still is in place till May 1. And we will do, at May 1, we hope our people have got their second shot. So I think we would continue to do the May 1 date. And that will determine if everybody is able to get their second dose, like we're planning, then we may not need that, but we still may. I think, and I'm going to say this not only from a pandemic standpoint, but from an active shooter standpoint, even if the center doors may not be locked, that somebody checking in here and then going in, whether you take their temperature or not, I think you could drop the temperature. I think those doors being closed are a better thing all the way around, whether it's pandemic or no pandemic. So I think that door should be closed. I think we'll do the same thing in the fire department, that you can't just walk in that. So we can do some of these things, but I don't see to change that May 1 date right now.
And the May one was a
Sorry, well-
suggestion, so
Yeah, yeah, and I think that is that an expiration, or is that date still on there as a good date?
well, I think we put May 1st to visit it. We said at least go till May 1st and then let's analyze it again when May
Okay.
1st gets
All right,
here.
So let's do that. Is that okay with you
Yeah.
guys? Okay, and then the last thing, take any needed action on disinfections or this type of thing. If we keep our disinfection program in the parks and everything else, and if this continues to go down, I think some of that stuff can change.
How about testing? TJ, are you?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can't tell you when I was with Senator Moran last Monday, and we finished about almost 2 hours at Pfizer. We went to Walgreens. Walgreens has 2 stations for rapid tests. And what their experience is, if you're hiring somebody and you want to know where they're at, you send them to Walgreens Rapid Test so that you can know when they come back that they have the results of their test. And then if they were positive, they may not get hired right away. But if they're negative, then they get through. So some employers are using the rapid test here in McPherson. And that takes away from what we're doing because they're not going to wait a day or two to get it. They can get it in an hour to an hour and a half. Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good.
But, and here's the other thing. Everybody gets a card. It is the worst shaped card that anybody could have thought up. It fits in nothing. So, but the other thing that I would caution you against is there may come down the pike for a third shot in the fall or next year. Or even Johnson & Johnson is contemplating a second shot. If you laminate your card, then you're going to have to get a different card and get it all restored again. So I guess my recommendation is do not try to laminate that card right now. Leave it this way, get to the end of the year, and pretty soon, more and more facilities will come up to be able to store your card digitally and be able to do that. There's right now only a couple firms, and none of them are in Kansas to take our deal, but somewhere along the line, in order, in case you lose it or something, I've taken a picture of it and have it in my smartphone just in case. I at least have, you can identify who I am, and I'll show a picture of my card. So anyway, that's where we're at. Anybody, anything else on study session?
Anything else from anybody as it relates to COVID procedures or